I moved to Texas expecting heat and change. What I didn't expect is not being able to rest in my own home. I am very tired, very tired. Last night at I think 1 a.m., close to 2 a.m., there were two women outside being very, very loud, yelling. And I'm thinking, not again. This happened about 2 weeks ago. They're just walking around the neighborhood yelling. This has never happened in Minnesota. I've lived in Minnesota most of my life and I never had this issue. About 2 weeks ago, there were more women. It was like maybe 5 or 6 women, it sounded like, walking throughout the neighborhood, screaming, yelling, laughing very loudly in the middle of the night. Who does that? Honestly, who does that? And then I couldn't go back to sleep. Typically when I wake up, I can't go back to sleep. I'm not the type of person who can just put headphones on, ear plugs in, or use a white sound machine. I can't sleep with that. So I had to suffer. I pay rent. I pay rent like everyone else. And there's so much noise pollution. I'll say the biggest issue has been my neighbor's dog consistently barking. They leave the house maybe before 7:45 a.m., but I would hear the dog start barking at 7:45 a.m., and it doesn't stop barking until I leave the house at 3:30 p.m. to go out. Who does that? Who just leaves their dog home and makes everyone else deal with the sound? And it's so irritating. The sound is so irritating. I feel like my body goes like this, is just so stressed, intense. And I only get a massage once a month because I'm trying to focus on paying off debt right now. So I'm not trying to spend any extra money, but like massages are expensive. But to feel like I have to go and get a massage to just get rid of the knots my body has created because of this noise pollution is crazy. And I've just never, and this is like more than a month long thing with the dog consistently barking. And so it started during the day, right? Because I work from home. I work fully remote. So I'm the one who's here, who hears everything. I think maybe Texas is an area, or, I feel like it's the US thing, right? That if you live in an apartment, it's expected that you're supposed to deal with the noise. It shouldn't be expected. That is noise pollution. Noise pollution causes people to go insane. This should be taken seriously. I called 311 so many times. I don't think they even sent anyone out. Oh, I called 311 on the dog thing, and they're like, well, we can send someone out to see if the dog's being cared for and whatnot. I don't know if they ever did that. I called 311 several times the night that the 5 or 6 whatever ladies were out there walking the streets yelling. I don't know if they sent anyone out. I had a really hard time going back to sleep. There was one day where my mind just couldn't shut off and I couldn't sleep, so I was up all night. I never went to sleep, not because of any noise, not because of noise pollution. I think I was just stressed because of the constant dog barking and all the other noise pollutions throughout the day, and I really wanted to take a nap. And I couldn't take a nap. I couldn't take a nap because I just kept hearing the dog barking throughout the whole day. Again, I pay rent. And I can't sleep in my own place because of the constant noise. And let's see, the other noise is people's car alarms going off. I don't know what it is about the US where people just don't care about other people's well-being and their car alarm just continuously goes off. This is not like an everyday occurrence, but it does happen throughout the week quite frequently. I will say it happens less here than in Minnesota. So I lived in St. Paul, Minnesota for 2.5 years. The amount of times that somebody's car alarm would go off is just so annoying to me. And I would never see the car. It was probably many streets over, so it's not like I'm going to get up in the middle of the night and go and figure out whose car it was. But how do people just not take care of their cars? If your car alarm is continuously going off, why wouldn't you take your car in to get that fixed? Why then would you expect everybody in the neighborhood to deal with that? That was the worst for noise pollution that I had in St. Paul, Minnesota. And then I lived in a more suburbs area. And same thing. I had issues with someone's car alarm going off. Thankfully not in the middle of the night, but later in the day, maybe 5 p.m. to 8 p.m. or early morning. Why? Why can't you just figure out your car issues? I will say that I never heard anyone's dog barking like that, or no one walked around the neighborhood like they do here in Texas. Maybe it's a Texas thing. I haven't really lived anywhere else. I mean, I lived in Maryland for 6 years and I was a child. Other than that, I haven't lived anywhere else. And I'm a very suburbs person. I figured, why not move to Austin, Texas? You know, I do not see myself staying here longer than a year because I can't with the noise. I'm so close to the highway too that I hear people revving their engines and their, was it mufflers on car going off? It's so loud. It's so loud. I just don't understand people. But yeah, back to Minnesota. I was in a 1,000 square foot townhouse and I didn't share a wall with my neighbor. They had like a bunch of kids too, and they're always like, oh, you know, let us know if you can hear us. And I'm like, I can't hear anything. I never heard their kids ever. I think the only time I heard anything was when someone came to work on the roof. And I was like, oh, what's that sound? And then I later found out someone was working on the roof. So I didn't even, like, I was on the first floor. It was like a 1-floor plan, and then my neighbors had the upstairs. But yeah, I never heard them. They never heard my 2 dogs barking because I would ask them repeatedly, you know, if you didn't hear anything, you let me know. I don't want to be a bother to anyone. And it was just, we couldn't hear anything. It was great, but like, I feel like the walls are thicker in Minnesota because you need insulation because it's so cold there. And here in Texas, there's just not a lot of insulation because it doesn't get that cold. But the fact of it too is like, I can hear the dog barking. We don't share a wall. We're not even in the same building. There's like my building, maybe like 5-6 feet worth of space, and then their building. And I can hear their dog barking constantly. I'm so frustrated. I'm so frustrated. I saw this video that I looked up maybe a couple weeks ago about seeing like, is anyone else dealing with these issues? Because I feel like in the US, it's like, oh, well, that's what you get living in an apartment. But people living in the suburbs sometimes deal with this too. Even people living really rural live with this too. There was this guy living in the suburbs. He had this house. His neighbors would leave their dogs outside during the day while they're away from home. And the dogs would constantly bark. And he's like, I can't do anything. The dogs just bark all freaking day. It is so frustrating. And he was saying that he asked the neighbors, can I take your dogs on a walk? Can I, dog sit for you? Can I feed them? Can I do something? And the neighbors rejected every single thing that he's asked if he can help with. It's like, what kind of person puts their dogs outside and just lets their dogs bark throughout the day while they're not home, harassing people? Because I feel like it is noise harassment. Now, my neighbor's dog is inside, but like the walls are not very thick, so I can hear all the freaking barking. Oh, and I think the worst thing of it too is like, I can deal with barking. It's not just barking. Like, yes, my neighbor's dogs bark. That's what dogs do. I understand that. But constant barking for 10 minutes straight, taking a couple minute break, going back to barking for 15 minutes, taking another couple minute, maybe 5-10 minute break, and going back to barking. It's like my body is just tense because it's like, I know it's coming. Oh, it stopped. Maybe it will be done. And then it starts again. And it's like, you've got to be kidding me. Why won't the barking just stop? Now, they started taking the dog away during the day because I complained. I don't want to be that person to complain, but oh my gosh, it is just so annoying. Like, it's like the noise is just so annoying to me that every time I'm just like, oh my gosh, just please somebody make it stop. And then I would hear the dog later in the evening. I typically go to sleep at 8 p.m. or I try to. And I am in bed typically 7 p.m., maybe even sooner, depending on if I went out or not. If I go to the gym and get back at like 5:30 or whatnot, then maybe I'll get in bed sooner because it's like, well, I don't have anything else to do. And just laying in bed, watching a TV show, trying to relax, and then hearing constant barking, it tenses my body. And then I'm like, well, now I feel like I can't go to sleep because my body is tense. Like, what the heck? There was a couple that lived more rural that I heard about, and they had their neighbor's dog. I think it was a livestock dog. It was outside barking all the time. I think they dealt with it for like a decade. It was like a crazy long time they had to deal with it. They sued the neighbor and won $100,000, I believe. And I think the people asked, we just want the dogs removed from the home. Now the neighbor, the owner of the dog, is like, no, we'll just debark the dog. And the neighbors were upset. They're like, we don't want any harm to come to the dog. Just remove the dog from the home. And the people were like, no, we're just going to debark the dog. Why is it that people will do anything except train the dog? Because you can get the dog to stop barking. If the dog is anxious, you can do something about it. Take the dog to doggy daycare. I actually used to take my dogs to doggy daycare, not because they would bark, just because I wanted them to have a little socialization and not be stuck inside all the time. But I also, when I had my dogs, the last 3 years of their lives, I was working from home because it was during the pandemic. And I mean, they loved it. So I was home with them constantly. Also, again, I lived in Minnesota. Nobody could hear my dogs barking. So, but also I think if you have a dog, go live somewhere where the walls are thicker so you're not harassing people. But oh, right, I called 311. They didn't really care. So yeah, I'm hoping to just move more in a suburban area after my lease. Like, I do like it here. This is a nice area in the cities. The cost is really good. I mean, it's a 400 square foot apartment, studio apartment, but I would like more space. But I don't want to pay $1,000 if I can help it, because in this city, everything is just expensive, I've seen more suburban areas where it's a little cheaper. I could probably spend $900 to just under $1,000 for maybe a 700 or 800 square foot apartment. That would be really nice. But also, traffic is horrible here. I volunteered at dog rescue once a week, and I went during a day where there was horrible traffic. It usually takes about 45 minutes to drive there. And this day, because the traffic was so bad, it took over an hour. And I'm just like, and I did that twice. And I'm just like, I can't do this again. This is way too much. I got home, because round trip, it was like close to 2.5 hours. I just laid down. I'm just like, I need rest, because I am so tired from all the driving. I will say too, I feel like I haven't done a lot of driving since the pandemic. I don't really go out that often. Before the pandemic, I was in meetup groups. I would go to meetup groups somewhat regularly. I would go rock climbing very regularly. I would do that like 2-3 times a week. And then after the pandemic, everything slowed down. People became kind of hermits, I guess, more couch potato people. And then, during the pandemic, my work is like, all right, everybody's going to work from home. And my dogs love that. So I figured I would just keep working from home. And because I don't have to get up early and drive anywhere or go anywhere right after work, I just don't drive a lot. I like to be close to the places that I need to be close to so I don't have to drive a lot. I go to the gym 3 times a week, and that's relatively close. That's less than a 10-minute drive, which is nice. But yeah, I would like to go back to living in the suburbs where it's hopefully quieter. It's not a guarantee. Oh, I also want to say too, like, going back to, if you complain about the noise in the US, you're told that, well, that's to be expected with living in an apartment. But I've been looking up certain laws and regulations in, let's say, Europe, like Germany, for instance. If you're being loud, your neighbor will literally call the police on you, and you will be given a ticket, or I don't know if arrested, but the police will get you to stop being loud, right? People there are very like, I'm not going to put up with you being loud, because it's the culture. I think this is a culture issue, the sound is, because the start of the U.S., right before the U.S., Native Americans had this land. Then what, Christopher Columbus came here and is like, I'm going to do all this stuff. And then more people came and they're like, we're going to turn this into the United States of America. And the U.S. is a mix of other cultures, because they're telling people, okay, well, you can immigrate here from another country, bring your family, bring your business, make a name for yourself. Let's make America great, right? Not trying to quote Trump or anything, because I did not vote for that man. I have never voted for that man. But that's basically what they were saying, right? Let's make America great and let's build America. Because even if you look at buildings around here, they're not that old compared to if you were to go to Europe. They are very old buildings, and they keep restoring them to keep them to a certain degree, so like they're safe, right? So it's been all these different cultures coming here, and I feel like there's maybe some clashing with different cultures. I've seen certain videos where certain people immigrate over there and there's just trash on the street. Like, people are not very respectful. I feel like America is like two things pushing against each other. Like, when do we actually work together to be in peace together? It's just all this pushing back and forth, and people saying, well, I have to deal with it, so you have to deal with it. Or, maybe you talk to an older person and they're like, well, this is what I had to deal with at my age, so you have to deal with it too. When are we going to change things for the better so people aren't stressed out? Because this stress isn't normal. You know what? I should say it's normal for certain people, but it doesn't have to be normal. We don't have to deal with this. We don't. We could have quiet. Like right now, it's quiet. It's quiet out here. It's great. I wish it was quiet last night. But between 1:50 a.m. and 2:05 a.m., I heard two women yelling, and I'm trying to figure out where's the noise coming from. At that point, I'm awake. I'm like, how am I supposed to go back to sleep? Because once I wake up in the middle of the night, I have a really hard time going back to sleep. And then I see them walking by. I actually opened my door. I was so upset. After they passed and they couldn't see them, I couldn't see them, I opened the door. I'm like, can you please be quiet? Some of us are sleeping. And I didn't hear anything else after that. But I heard a car start and then I heard the car go. So I think they were going somewhere. But like in the middle of the night, I think it's interesting too. When I was a child, I was told that I could sleep through anything. I could sleep through a thunderstorm. I mean, but I can't sleep through screaming, yelling, and whatnot. I do really feel bad for the people with kids. Personally, I am child-free. I do not want kids, but I do feel bad for the parents of the kids. Could you imagine you have a baby that you just got back to sleep, and your baby hears all this commotion, yelling, screaming going on, and now the baby wakes up? If you have to go to work the next morning, that sucks for you, doesn't it? If only these women could just be quiet. So yeah, noise pollution. I did not think that noise pollution would be this bad in Texas. I knew that it would be hot. It has taken some time to get used to. I'm still getting used to it. I heard traffic was bad. I didn't think it was as bad as it is. Nobody told me about the horrible noise pollution. So, yeah. I'm not too annoyed where I'm like, I need to get out of Texas. I do like the warm weather, but I don't understand how people live like this. I am tired. I am very tired.